What is up, everybody? My name is J Raj, and I just want to welcome you into the 2020 Visions podcast. This is actually episode 13, and today we've got a lot to discuss because there's been a couple shows that we've talked about that have wrapped up. So we're going to be discussing Maul Shadow Lord and the ending for it, Daredevil Born Again, the ending for it, and my thoughts. We're going to be going over WWE Backlash, and also going to be going over an epic comic book overview that features Wolverine from his Wolverine Origins comic line. I'm glad you're here. Let's get this thing started. So to start it off, we got to talk about some heat, baby. I'm talking peak Star Wars, Maul Shadow Lord. I had posted about this a few months ago, talked about it on the podcast. I posted this one clip and I said, I think this is going to be peak Star Wars. And some dude commented at the time, and he was like, it's not going to be peak. Very cynical he was. And after Maul Shadow Lord, oh my goodness, I was not wrong. It was peak Star Wars. And I went back to a post from 3 months ago, tagged the guy, and I said, what do you think now? Like, I was kind of feeling a little petty after that. But anyway, it was great. And I just want to say spoilers ahead because we are going to be discussing some details from it. So if you haven't seen it, you might want to skip past this part. So basically, Maul's group, they were on the run because they have more to do before they're truly ready to take on the Empire. But the Inquisitors get the sense of where Maul and his group are. And there's this constant dynamic of, Captain Lawson. He's an officer that, he didn't want the Empire to come start investigating, like Maul being in the area. But sure enough, his droid ends up signaling for the Empire to come. So he ends up kind of making a deal with Maul that if Maul helps them get out of there, because Captain Lawson did start firing at the Empire, if Maul helps him, that he'll work together with them for them all to escape. He's got mistrust for Maul, but he decides if he doesn't do this, the Empire's going to kill him. So anyway, they're on the run from the Inquisitors. Some epic lightsaber duels and like intel or whatever. Some epic lightsaber duels happen. That's what I should say. And, I kept having to pause it. I was like, ooh, let me play that one back. They would have some just sick sequences. Like for animation, it's top of the line Star Wars lightsaber duels, and it was awesome. So at one point, Darth Maul's little droid, I think they call him Spybot, he ends up getting a lightsaber thrown near him by an Inquisitor, and it hits him, splits him in half, and he's like, Master. It was actually kind of sad. There's a lot of reactions online. People were like, no, and that's kind of how I was feeling. But Maul, even after losing some of the other people, he didn't seem that affected. But when Spybot got split in half, it was on. His facial expression changed. And it's like, you don't want to mess with Maul when he's like that. So he started laying the smackdown on the Inquisitors. And sure enough, with the help of Master Daki and Devin and Captain Lawson and their crew, they were able to get away from the Inquisitors. And the Inquisitors make a call. So as they go in the woods, there's a patch of woods between them and their ship to get off-world. And next thing you know, you start hearing a noise. One of Maul's Mandalorian soldiers gets dragged into the fog in the woods. And you hear this noise. It's like, dragged in there. So you're thinking, oh, what the heck? Next thing you know, you hear... Anyway... And it's like, holy crap, we're getting Darth Vader. In last episode, I was talking about how I really felt like they were going to leave us at a cliffhanger. I truly didn't believe they were going to give us Vader in season 1. But this thing came out on May 4th, and what better way to celebrate Star Wars Day than to get Darth Maul versus Darth Vader. So I'm going to talk into detail about how that ended up going down. So sure enough, they decided they were going to give us a treat. And Darth Vader comes out of the shadows. And he starts fighting them. Doesn't say a word. And he's just making it look easy. Like he could do this with his eyes closed. And, something that stood out to me with this fight was it was clear that, and even with the dialogue in the other episodes earlier in the season, Darth Maul realizes that he cannot take on the Empire himself. He can't take on Sidious by himself. He's not really aware of Vader yet. But I think it shows, how smart Maul is, that he's not letting his pride get in the way of reaching his goals. He realizes he has to get help, which is why he's trying to recruit Devin to be able to train her, which she's very stubborn about it. She's got the Jedi ways, that echo chamber that she was involved in. She's still got all that in her heart, and her Master Daki is there in her ear like, no, you cannot join him. You must seek peace in the galaxy and all this stuff. Or he actually just wanted to hide. So I think he was actually being a coward, but calling it something else. Anyway, so they start realizing that the only way they're going to beat Darth Vader and any of them come out alive is to fully start trying to fight alongside Maul. But Vader, like I said, he's making it look easy. Like, he is messing them up. They don't even really get a hit on him towards the end. But, they realize sort of that their only chance to get away is kind of to run. So they run away. Darth Maul freaking uses the Force to get a bunch of stone to fall on Darth Vader. And they were portraying Vader like he was a horror movie character. Because you think he's buried, next thing you know, his hand pops out and he's back at him. He's like looking like Michael Myers coming through there. All you hear is his breathing. He's walking at him just easily. Cha, 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 cha. Like, bro, I love the way they portrayed Vader in this. Like, just a flat out horror character. And they couldn't do a thing. And at one point, Maul, one thing that stood out to me, you hear him after they ran away for a second and they have a couple minutes to kind of recoup. You hear Maul in the background and he's saying, no, it can't be. And he's talking to himself and he says, if I'm correct, he will know how you think. He's like talking to himself. Maul is like kind of going crazy. He's getting the gist that this dude is not an Inquisitor. So sure enough, next time they they clash their lightsabers, he's like, what are you? You are no Inquisitor. And Darth Vader, he's slicing him up, ends up slicing his leg. Maul is now injured. And that's the weakness of him, like the lower half of his body, he's got robot legs, And Vader, I feel like, knew this. And, it's kind of interesting because at the end of Star Wars, the Clone Wars, Ahsoka is fighting Darth Maul. And this is after Order 66. And she tells him, she says, you're lucky Anakin's not the one that showed up because you would not have survived. So little does Maul know he is facing Anakin, the prized pupil that replaced him and became Darth Vader. Darth Maul's thrown to the side by Sidious and Anakin's replaced him. So I truly think that Maul had hints of this, but he didn't for sure get that confirmation to really know, because I feel like he really would have lost it. Even just the idea barely popping in his head, you could see he's losing his sanity because it drives him crazy knowing he was replaced. So I think he got the sense of it, but not the full understanding that this is the guy that replaced you. So anyway, the fights keep happening. Master Daki, or whatever his name is, he's like, if we work together, we can defeat him. And we all know, we're like, oh my gosh, bro. First off, you're not fighting in an aggressive style like Maul tried to tell you. Maul told Master Daki, he said, you have to be more aggressive. He will know how you fight. Which maybe hints that Maul did know that it was Anakin because he knows how the Jedi would fight. But Master Daki, he's not really changing his fighting style. So sure enough, like, Master Daki actually does get a hit on Darth Vader. And, Maul's leg is injured. He decides, he's got to keep his end goal in mind. He can't get caught up letting his pride make him stay around for too long, because if he does, he might die. And his whole plan that he has, this slow, strategic plan, Maul is very strategic. It will get thrown in the trash if he gets so caught up in winning this one fight. So he takes a step back, realizes his leg is just hurt, and he sneaks and force pushes Master Daki right into Darth Vader. Darth Vader, boom, he starts giving the heavy strikes, bro. And sure enough, choom, Master Daki is stabbed right as Devin is looking from a distance. And I think that Maul knew this because he had glanced up where Devin was at. I think he knew that the way to boost Devin into embracing the dark side was to see the tragedy of her former master dying. And, if we look at Star Wars, that's a common theme. Like with the Sith, I feel like, Palpatine was able to get Anakin by making him lose Padme. And Darth Maul, he dealt with the initial loss of his whole family because he was kidnapped by Palpatine. I think that the dark side, or Palpatine will say, he knows that the way to boost people into the dark side is by making them suffer major personal losses. And one thing Yoda says is fear is the path to the dark side. And he also says that attachment is also a path to the dark side. So I think Devin was afraid to lose her master, and she was attached to her master and the Jedi ways, which is a weird oxymoron. The Jedi say that attachment leads to the dark side, but yet they are so attached to keeping the Jedi way, even when it calls for something different with the Empire taking over. It's a weird oxymoron there. Very interesting, if you ask me. But, so sure enough, Devin, she ends up trying to just force her way back to Vader. And she says, I will kill him. And when she says this, her voice completely changes. Like, it's scary. And that was the dark side taking over Devin. When she yelled this, the dark side was coming out of her, the hatred. She was ready to embrace it. And sure enough, Maul is like, no, you're not ready yet, but I will train you. I will train you. And she said, yes, I'm ready. So next season, we're going to be seeing Maul training Devin, and they're going to keep going at, the Empire, probably trying to get back to Vader and Palpatine, because Devin wants her revenge, and Maul wants his revenge for being replaced. But golly, it was great. And, I actually saw a video that was an interview from Sam Witwer talking about this, season finale. And he said, if you think about it, whenever that group, they were in the woods, they run into Vader. The way Vader is so easily able to just clash with them like it's so easy. He said, if you look at Anakin, we have to know that Anakin, one of his gifts is that he can see the future. So every move you're making, he already knows what you're about to do. So he can easily place his lightsaber where he needs to. And also, he was saying that obviously the Empire has been spying on Darth Maul and the Inquisitors. Sam Witwer talks about how the Inquisitors probably would have reported back to Vader with footage of Maul and just letting him know how he fights. So Vader was fully prepared. He knew the weak spot was Maul's leg. He went after that. And it just shows you how smart Vader is and how he fully embraces his abilities because he sees the future and he sees the moves before they even happen. So that was interesting to hear. If you want to hear Sam Witwer talk about that more, just look it up because it's really interesting. But yeah, hopefully we get to see Maul get somewhat a bit of revenge. But I don't know. Just having this character hashed out more is great though, because it's been such a mysterious thing. People were like, okay, what was he doing in between this film and this film? And this show is great because it's filling in those blanks. And I loved it overall. And it definitely just exceeded expectations. And obviously, I'm hoping it exceeded expectations for that guy from TikTok that said it's not going to be peak. Look at you now, buddy. But to move towards the other show that I've just loved going over each time I do this podcast is Daredevil Born Again Season 2. And it just wrapped up, so, spoilers ahead. But the last we left off, it was, the things that happened since then is basically Buck, Fisk's right-hand man. He always is the guy that takes people out when they need to be. He gets the sense about Daniel and BB Urich having a bond. And basically, he sends Daniel to basically take BB to turn her in. And it's probably so she'll get taken out for good. But because BB and Daniel have a special bond, Daniel finally gives her the chance to run off. And he says, go somewhere where they will not find you. So he goes up to the building. Buck says, where is BB? And Daniel, he says, F you, Buck. And sure enough, even though Buck and Daniel have sort of a bond forming, Buck is beating him down. And he's got a gun pointing at his head, and he's like, why are you making me do this, Daniel? And Daniel's like, Buck, how long until you're the one that's got a gun pointing at your head? And he's speaking facts when he says that. It's like, you think, okay, Buck is going to have a change of heart. He's not going to take out his dude. But sure enough, kaboom, kablow. Rest in peace to Daniel. He got hit by a bullet. That was terrible. All right. Anyway, yeah, Buck takes out Daniel. And it was kind of sad because that actor, every time that he's on the screen, it's like, this kid is talented. His dad apparently was like a big time actor, like on the Sopranos show. And I just hope that he gets featured in more movies and gets more roles because he's a very talented actor. I think his last name is Gandolfini. But I loved his portrayal of Daniel. But it moves towards the vigilante trials. They're trying to try Karen Page as a vigilante because she was helping Daredevil. So they realize that the court is going to be corrupt because Fisk pays off everybody. But one thing Daredevil has a habit of saying is it's not just about this court, it's about the court of public opinion. And they point out that this trial is being filmed. So it makes it less likely that corruption can stand because the public will know about it. So sure enough, if you remember, in this season, Matt Murdock is missing the whole season. But they decide the main way to really get the public to view this case, from a non-corrupt way is to bring Matt Murdock in to represent Karen Page or help represent her. So he walks in. It's like just the aura, bro. Like the scene, it's like, man, this is Matt Murdock, aura farming coming in there. Everybody in the court's like, oh, that's Matt Murdock. Oh my goodness. So they make it a point to keep on bringing up Kingpin's, just the things that, he's being accused of. And the court justices, they call a break in the court. And they start speaking to Matt and the other attorneys, telling them that they have to calm down with their accusations because they can't really stand in court. And one scene I thought really was cool is like Kingpin, knowing Daredevil's echolocation, that he has crazy good hearing. He's in a completely another room, but he starts whispering to Matt Murdock from another room and just telling him that he's going to make a fool out of himself. So sure enough, they go back in there. And the topic of the Northern Star ship that had all the illegal weapons on it gets brought up. And Daredevil had convinced the justices to let him play a clip from one of the captains of that boat. The captain goes on to say that they were given orders by a man named the Kingpin, who they all understood was Wilson Fisk, to sink the ship if someone discovered the weapons on there. So Kingpin's attorney is like, oh, this is all hearsay. This cannot stand in the court if there's not another witness. This man is not even here today that's on this video. So Matt turns and looks at Kingpin, And Kingpin says, "You are a fool, Matthew Murdock." And Matt says, "No, I'm not." He turns around and says, "I am Daredevil." The crowd goes crazy. So the significance of that is they needed another witness for someone who's seen all the illegal weapons. So for the sake of winning this trial against Kingpin and letting Karen Page be free, Matt Murdock gave his identity away as Daredevil to be that other witness for the illegal weapons. Therefore, making it where Karen Page is free. And he, people were like, how, the attorney for Kingpin is like, how can a blind man be Daredevil? He pulls out his freaking, what is it called? Anyway, his weapon. He bounces it off the walls, catches it. Straight up war farming. Like, it's on the same level to me as I am Iron Man. Like, it was pretty sick. And so at the end, it ends up showing Daredevil. He does get arrested for attempted murder, which I'm kind of mixed up about that. Like, how did he, attempt murder? But it also shows that, oh, I'm skipping some stuff. Okay, I'm definitely gonna have to backtrack a little bit. Anyway, okay, so basically the task force, they had some guys outside of the courtroom up in a building, and they were ready to try to shoot Matt Murdock as he walked out. But Bullseye comes in there and he fights another task force guy. The task force dude was dressed as Bullseye. Bullseye takes him out easy, and he's like, freaking posers. And so Bullseye also tries to shoot Kingpin, and they ended up blocking down the courtroom. Nobody comes in or out. Riots start to break out, and Fisk basically, he's going to try to have a war on the streets against the people doing the riots. And I don't remember who it was. They tried to make a deal with Kingpin, though, to say that if he resigns and leaves New York City and goes out of country, that he won't be arrested for his crimes. He refuses to take the deal. In the meantime, the rioters, they start breaking into the courthouse, and Kingpin is like, "Open the door, open the door." And I'm watching this with my wife, and I'm like, if they open that door, these rioters are dead. I was like, they don't know what they're doing. Sure enough, open the door. Kingpin says, "Boo!" Punches a guy. He goes flying down the hall. Shoo. Looks like he dead. He looks like he died. And then he goes, lifts some guy up, breaks his freaking back. It looked like freaking Darth Vader on Star Wars Rogue One. Kingpin got his hallway scene and was messing everyone up. Like, a countless number of people. You know what I'm saying? Like, it was bad. And they get to the front part of the courtroom. The rioters start trying to stomp Kingpin. Daredevil stops them with Jessica Jones. And finally, Kingpin agrees to take the deal to leave the country. So in the end, Kingpin has to flee the country. Daredevil ends up getting in prison for attempted murder, which I don't know if they're trying to say he was connected to Bullseye, who attempted to murder Kingpin, or what. It also shows Jessica Jones with her kid, and it shows somebody walking in. Sure enough, Luke Cage is coming back. Earlier in the season, they hinted that Luke Cage was working for Mr. Charles for the government. Mr. Charles works for Valentina De Fontaine, or De Allegra Fontaine. I don't remember her name. And Luke Cage said his work there is done, that he got a replacement. Then it pans to an airplane. Mr. Charles is riding with Bullseye. So now Bullseye is officially working for the government. I'm thinking like connected to the CIA, basically working for Val now. So there's a few things with that. I think that Bullseye is going to end up being in a Dark Avengers storyline. And technically Bullseye is sort of like a super soldier, because he had his back reinforced with adamantium after he got thrown off after the end of season 3 of the original show. That's why he survived being thrown off the roof. So I'm curious about, could we see like more action with some super soldiers? Like, there's Bullseye. Also, there were leaked images a few years ago from Falcon and the Winter Soldier. There were leaked images of Omega Red and Valentina Allegra de Fontaine. She's on that show. So it kind of all connects to me. Bullseye, maybe fighting some other super soldiers. Could this be like the way that the recasted versions of Sabretooth and Wolverine get introduced? I mean, we know the adamantium coming out of the ocean with Tiamat, the what is it called? The Celestial. Like, could all the governments try to be fighting to see who really gets to take that? Maybe send their super soldiers. I think that seems like an interesting plot, but I think we're going to see Bullseye in some future projects, so I'm excited about that. And, it's an interesting dynamic, though, with this season is Daredevil, he ended up saving the person he hates, Bullseye, but Kingpin lost the person he loved, Vanessa. And at the end, Daredevil technically won while being imprisoned, but yet Kingpin lost while being set free in paradise at the beach. It's a weird dynamic, like very weird. But I think with the Kingpin being out of the country, it's going to kind of spark some gang wars, because a new kingpin of crime that's over the crime families will have to take his place. So I'm thinking that might be what Spider-Man Brand New Day shows, is the gang wars, seeing who's going to take the Kingpin's place. I think he will return. And they started showing a bunch of symbols of roses. And in the comics, Kingpin has a long-lost son named the Rose, who ends up becoming the Kingpin. I don't know. I loved this season. The season finale was crazy. The Fisk hallway scene, freaking looking like Darth Vader out here, breaking backs, just knocking people into eternity. Man, Kingpin looks so strong in this. And people wonder, like, does he have powers? Nah, Kingpin, he's just strength on a different level. There's nothing that said he has powers. In the comics, he does get trained by sumo wrestlers. And if you know, sumo wrestlers are some of the strongest people in the world. So I love the way he was portrayed. I'm excited to see what happens with Daredevil in prison. Will he get broke out by Spider-Man, which maybe is why Spider-Man's fighting in a prison against the Hand in the trailer. Anyway, I'm excited for the Punisher special, which comes out Tuesday, May 12th, which right now that's tomorrow. So I'm going to definitely be discussing that next episode. I feel like this section was a jumbled up mess. I'm so sorry. I don't feel like I did this justice. My mind goes all over the place because it all is going to connect somehow, but I'm sorry. I feel like I was just rambling. But anyway, we're going to move on to talking about a few other things. So one thing we're going to talk about next is WWE Backlash. And I kind of had some concerns about it because they were still doing this stuff where they're saying the first hour is going to be on ESPN2. And then after that first hour, it's going to be on ESPN Unlimited plans only. So with WrestleMania, like I've said in the last episode, the matches in the first hour really felt rushed. It was like they were so dead set on meeting this deadline, having the matches done before that first hour, or the first couple matches, we'll say. So that was my concern coming into Backlash, but, I'll admit it really surprised me. I enjoyed Backlash more than I did WrestleMania. I mean, the Braun Breaker versus Seth Rollins match, it seemed like for every move Seth Rollins had, Braun Breaker had a move to combat it. There was a lot of reversals. It didn't feel like just a squash match. And it honestly felt unpredictable, and I think that's why they call Braun Breaker the quote unquote unpredictable badass. Hey, don't fault me for just quoting someone. But anyway, it kind of showed Braun Breaker's style, him being unpredictable, which I really like that. And, they just really did a good job. Asuka versus Kairi Sane. Not freaking Kairi Sane. Dang, I got Kairi Sane just being released on my mind. Asuka versus Io Sky. My bad. That match, they are just so crisp, and you can see their chemistry. One thing I was kind of worried about is, like, at the beginning of the match, the crowd, they were just kind of chanting, "We want Kyrie, we want Kyrie." And I was like, I hope that their match doesn't get overshadowed by the fact that Kairi Sane got released, because Asuka and Io Sky can put on a killer show. And sure enough, they got the crowd drawn in. Their chemistry, Asuka's smoothness, like getting in the submission holds, Io Sky's technical wrestling. Like, I was watching Io Sky and I was thinking she might be the best wrestler in all of WWE. Like, men included. Io Sky makes it look so smooth, dude. And, some people are saying this might be Asuka's last WWE match, which I don't know. If that's the case, Asuka will be a Hall of Famer. She is one of the GOATs of all of WWE women's wrestling. And, she's always been exciting to watch. She's always been unpredictable. So kudos to her. I mean, hopefully she's not leaving, but if she is, I just hope that whatever she does next, she's successful in. Another match was the Danhausen match. He had to find his own, like, a tag team partner to take on Kit Wilson and The Miz. And so on SmackDown, he had created a clone machine, and sure enough, at his entrance on Backlash, he had a clone machine, and it cloned a Minihausen. Like a little Minihausen, okay? Like a short person, probably about 3 foot tall. Freaking Minihausen was cleaning house in there, looking like a dang luchador, looking like just mini Rey Mysterio in there. And you got to be really mini to be mini Rey Mysterio. I mean, he's already kind of a miniature man. Anyway, and then, they go fighting down the ramp or whatever. Like, Minihausen gets thrown in the clone machine again, and then a ton of Minihausens come out, freaking jump the Miz and Kit Wilson, and Danhausen ends up getting the dub. And I enjoy Danhausen. Like, he's got that comedic thing that WWE needs. Over the years they've had a few guys like that: Santino Marella, R-Truth, and now you got Danhausen. I want to see a little more from him, like with his in-ring skills, because it seems like he mainly hits that suplex, does his little pump kick at the end. I want to see a little more from him with his in-ring stuff, just to let people know, like, this dude ain't no joke. I think he could do a little more to show his skills. But entertained, I was sports entertained. Like, to me, that was 10 out of 10. You also got Trick Williams versus Sami Zayn. This is coming off of the Gingerbread Man's memorial. The Gingerbread Man got beat up, and they had a whole funeral for the dude. Sami Zayn interrupted. There was this crappy choir singing, like, out of key. Like, Trick Williams made a poem. Trick Williams is not toxic. He was basically doing slam poetry. That's like one of Kit Wilson's favorite things. But anyway, Sami Zayn interrupts, and he's like, SmackDown TV time is hard to come by. He's like, are you kidding me right now? This is disrespectful. Look at all this stuff in the ring. Look at how much money is being spent on this. And the crowd's booing Sami Zayn, but I feel like he was kind of speaking facts on the state of WWE in a roundabout way. They're going to give like 15 minutes to a Gingerbread Man memorial, but they couldn't give more TV time to Aleister Black. They couldn't give more TV time to Kairi Sane. They can spend money on a Oak casket, but they can't. I'm kind of exaggerating it, but they could spend money on an oak casket, but they couldn't pay the New Day more. Like, I don't know. I feel like in a way, Sami Zayn, even though it was part of his promo, it had some deeper meaning to it. The crowd is booing him. I don't know. I thought he was kind of speaking some facts. But sure enough, the freaking gingerbread man comes up like Undertaker out of the casket, and it's Lil Yachty. They start beating Sami Zayn up. But leading into their Backlash match, it was also unpredictable because at one point, Lil Yachty gets involved, hits Sami Zayn with the gingerbread man's candy cane. You think, okay, this is when Trick Williams wins. And nah, he didn't. But then Sami Zayn ends up getting the candy cane, hitting Trick Williams. So it's like 2 interferences happen, still no winner. So at that point, it's like, dang, I don't know what's going to happen. And sure enough, in the end, Lil Yachty kind of interfered, setting up Trick Williams to do the trick shot, the flying knee, basically. And he ended up winning. And that's when I love a match, when it's not predictable. And to me, that ended up being not predictable. It kept you on the edge of your seat. And I feel like that was the case on all of the matches. Same for Roman and Jacob Fatu. There was interferences. And still, Fatu was kicking out. Roman was kicking out. Well, I don't... Actually, Fatu didn't have anybody interfere for him, I don't think. But when Roman had interferences... Dang, I might be remembering this wrong. Golly. All right, just scrap what I'm saying about Roman versus Fatu. It was a good match. I will say that. I don't really remember everything about that match. To me, that was the one I enjoyed the least. But I'm excited to see what it sets up. I feel like maybe we could get like a 3-way bloodline, kind of like bloodline wars type of thing going. Maybe have Jacob Fatu and Tama Tonga, since Tama Tonga is turning on Solo. Jacob Fatu and Tama Tonga versus Solo Sikoa and Tala Tonga versus Roman Reigns and Jey Uso or Jimmy Uso. Maybe something like that. I don't know. They're building an interesting story. I'm sorry, I freaking forgot everything that happened in Fatu versus Roman's match. But anyway, to me it felt unpredictable. At the end, I kind of knew Roman was going to win, but the way he did it, he did take off the turnbuckle. He kind of cheated to win. And Fatu's doing this weird crap, like acting like he's licking his fingers. Like, I'm like, what are you doing, bro? You're changing your whole personality. I thought you was all gas, no brakes with it. I don't know. It was looking like you might have... I ain't going to say what I was going to say. But it's a little weird, but, it was a good match. But that's my reaction for Backlash. I liked it better than WrestleMania. Every match seemed unpredictable. Every match was smooth. It got you drawn in. And then they did announce some really cool news that I'm about to talk about. So during the pay-per-view, John Cena came out there. And, the crowd starts chanting one more match. And he lets them know, like, I was kind of expecting this reaction. But he did talk about the upside of like his retirement tour and the tournament that ended up deciding who his last opponent was. And he was talking about how that tournament got to highlight some young talent. We got to see Obafemi for the first time. We got to see Javon Evans for the first time. There was like some returns that happened. Like more talent got attention that normally wouldn't have. And Cena was talking about that and how he wouldn't really change the way he went out because it got to shed light on the next generation of talent. And he announced that there's some big news, and he's going to be having this thing called the John Cena Classic. And he described it as the stars of today versus the stars of tomorrow. And he said there's also going to be a new championship with it for whoever wins. But there's a twist, because he said that he wants the fans to be able to decide who wins. it's going to be that the fans vote for the champion. So they're going to have a tournament. And he even said that you can, for the first time, there can be a tournament where it's potentially the loser, someone that lost, can still win the championship because it's completely voted for by the fans. And, online I've seen a few people posting about it saying, oh, this sounds like trash. This sounds like trash. But, I mean, it's been a long time since WWE ever did something like this. And we're kind of living in a time where the fans, they're like, give us what we want. Fans go crazy about, okay, this person needs to be pushed or this person needs to return. Us fans of wrestling have got really cynical. So I think that they're seeing that cynicism as an opportunity for this. And I'm kind of excited about it because you best believe whenever this comes around, I'm going to be voting. Because, like, for instance, if for some reason Chad Gable is in this tournament and he ends up, like, getting put in a match and maybe loses, I'm voting for Chad Gable. I want Chad Gable to win the tournament. I'd be down for let's see, who else? LA Knight to finally win some gold. Oh, my gosh. I actually would be kind of ticked off if they did that. Why do I feel like they're going to do that crap? I mean, I guess the fans decide. Hopefully fans don't vote for LA Knight because he needs to get a real championship that he earned to show that WWE does trust him. Anyway, I think that they're turning the fans' cynicism into this John Cena Classic. And whether you like it or not, it's something different and it's unpredictable. And as I've said before, that's the stuff I like. I like stuff that's different and unpredictable with WWE because WWE, people have figured out the formula. Like, if you've really been watching for long enough, you can figure out the outcomes of these feuds. You can figure out who's coming next. So this will add an unpredictable part to WWE that will be entertaining. So the John Cena Classic, I'm excited about it. And we're just going to have to see when it gets announced for and just how it goes. But I'm looking forward to it. A couple other pieces of news before I move into the comic book overview for the day. It actually has to do with some DC stuff. And I'll admit, I don't know as much about DC as I do Marvel. I want a reason to get more into it. It's just, with Marvel, I got so into the movies, and that's kind of what made me start reading Marvel comics a couple years ago. And, I could do my homework and start reading DC without a movie getting me interested. But, maybe with more DC films and things like that coming out, it might motivate me a little more to learn DC. So I'm kind of late talking about this, but like probably a month ago, the trailer for Clayface came out, which is going to be part of the DCU, James Gunn's DCU, which is connected to the Superman movie. They also, Peacemaker had made a cameo in that, so technically Peacemaker's part of the DCU. Supergirl movie's coming out soon. She's part of the DCU. Anyway, the Clayface movie, it comes out in October. It's kind of like a body horror type movie. Like his body is like getting deformed. So Clayface, he originally was an actor. He gets in an accident and he starts taking this serum that's supposed to, make him look how he did before, make him not look all scarred. But the more he takes it, the more it kind of disfigures him, and his body ends up basically turning to clay. I mean, I don't know all the details about it, but the trailer looked pretty scary. It looked really tragic, and I like that they're leaning towards kind of like it's being a horror movie. That'll be different, but it is going to connect to the DCU, which I think is kind of funny. You look at Superman, such a bright, happy-go-lucky kind of movie, and compare that to Clayface, but yet they're part of the same universe. I'm kind of excited about that. Another bit of DC news is on what day does it come out? May 22nd, the new Lego Batman game is coming out. And I'm excited about it. There's been a few games I want to buy this year, and that is one game that I think I'll get because I've been playing the Lego Marvel Superheroes Lego game, and I've always enjoyed those. And I actually grew up playing some of the Lego Batman games. So, May 22nd, when it comes around, I might just have to spend that dough so I can play as Batman. But one thing that is different about this new Lego Batman game is there's only going to be like 7 or 8 playable characters, which is completely different from, the other Lego games. Like usually they got a giant roster, tons of people you can play as. But this one, it's going to have 7 or 8 people, like Nightwing, Robin, Batman, Catwoman, and a few others. Which, I mean, that's cool. They are doing something different. It just depends on what you're looking for in the game. Like, do you want it to be like the old ones or do you want it to be something new? Another thing that's going to be new about it is the combat style is similar to the Batman Arkham games, which I loved playing those when I was growing up. And I think I'm going to do live streams of me playing those sometime in the near future. So if y'all ever want to tune in to my live streams, you might just see me playing Batman Arkham, one of those games. But so the combat style is different. The playable roster is going to be different. But one upside is they're going to have like a crazy amount of suits to choose from. So the lack of playable characters, it's kind of made up for with how many suits you can choose from for Batman. And I don't know if this includes some of the other characters having more suits as well. But I'm wanting to say I saw that there's like over 100 suits to choose from. So, less playable characters, but more suits to choose from. So that's some news with that stuff. And, yeah. Also, something else I meant to mention. Sorry, my mind went blank. It actually kind of has back to do with WWE. A lot of people with WWE, they post reaction content. Like, there's specific ones I watch. But apparently WWE is kind of going out of their way more to take down reaction content now, which is weird because they've featured reaction videos on their promo vids. So seems like they're actually going out more, giving people copyright strikes. So reacting to WWE content might be something that happens less and less, unless you go on a different platform that allows that stuff. So that's kind of interesting, which is kind of why, personally, like I've done a couple reaction videos to like the Spider-Man cartoon from the 90s and things like that, but I tend to not lean towards doing reaction stuff because to me, I don't think it's original. I think people, they're not really tuning in to listen to you. They're tuning in just to watch what's happening because they don't want to pay for the subscription fees. So it's like, are you creating equity for yourself by doing reaction content? I would say not. Like, I would rather make content that kind of is centered around, like, sure, I'm talking about different things, but I want my personality to be able to kind of shine. I don't want people to tune in just to be able to watch something without paying for a subscription. So I get it from a business perspective if WWE does this, but also part of me thinks, what if WWE doesn't want people to be able to get away with being so critical of them? What if they know they're in a low point and that's why they're starting to take stuff down because people are speaking out about, the pay cuts or the releases? It could be that. Maybe it's more so about that than the actual money they're losing by when people tune into that instead of getting the subscriptions. I don't know. It's just interesting. I mean, we'll see. Like, I'm sure some of y'all watch that stuff, specific creators who do tons of reaction content. I guess we'll see if they're able to post as consistently. But yeah, it's just also funny. It's like out of sight, out of mind. Seems like what WWE is trying to do. Like, one minor example is Sol Ruka. She had confronted Becky Lynch, and she went to do a soul snatcher. And when she went to dive off the turnbuckle, she slipped. And it kind of messed up the flow a little bit. Then she ended up climbing back up, jumping, hitting Becky Lynch with the Soul Snatcher. WWE's been posting promotional videos. They've completely edited out the slip where, like, it looks like she never botched it. They did the same thing for Braun Breaker's spear at WrestleMania. They show him running down, but they cut out the crappy spear. They only showed the spear where Seth was next to the barricade. So it's like WWE's taking down reaction content. I think they don't want people to be as critical. And they also are trying to, I think that they're giving more effort into their own social media posts. Like, they don't want other people to get the opportunity to post clips of the accidents. I don't know. It's just kind of weird. I don't know the reason for it. But hopefully, if there's people that have made careers off of doing reaction content or something, I'm sure that a lot of them have other ways to make their money, but hopefully it doesn't impact people too negatively. WWE's not missing out on the money though, so I don't get it. But that's just a few random things with news. But we're going to move into the comic book overview for the day. So the comic book overview for today, it's going to be in the Wolverine Origins series, and this is going to be us going over issues 21 through 23. The specific story that I'm going over, it's not a very deep one. Like, the art is really good. It's a fun read. But yeah, I was kind of at a standstill knowing what to read for the podcast today. So last night I dove into my Marvel Unlimited app, and I'd already read some of Wolverine Origins, and then I came across these issues and I was like, hey, those are kind of fun, But I do recommend Wolverine Origins just in general, because it basically shows that Logan gets his memories back, and he goes after the people who wronged him in the past. And but you see like flashbacks to him working alongside Captain America, technically before Wolverine got his powers, and he runs into like Bucky Barnes and shows a lot. And it's really good, like, to read if you're wanting to learn the Wolverine character on a deeper level. But yeah, this specific issue is not very deep, but it starts out, shows Logan. He's in this restaurant eating, and it gets revealed that there's actually a $15 million hit on Logan, the Wolverine. And he finds this piece of paper near his food, and it says duck. So he reads it. It says duck, and he's questioning duck. Like, what the heck? Next thing you know, there's a freaking bomb in his turkey that he's eating, and Deadpool is the one that accepted this hit on Wolverine, and Deadpool says goose. Freaking blows up this room, blows up the turkey that Wolverine is eating. So, they just start going at it, fighting. Wolverine slices Deadpool in the face. And it's just funny because some of the art on here, like, it kind of shows what Deadpool sees when he's looking at Wolverine. So I don't really get what's up with this little top hat, but his mind goes everywhere. It's like you never know what he's going to say or what he's going to do when it comes to Deadpool. So, they just keep on going at it, fighting. And just the colors on this and the art is pretty sick. Deadpool drops some grenades, and Wolverine's like, you're crazy. So Wolverine basically jumps out the window to try to avoid this bomb. And plus, he's got his healing factor. So, I mean, even if he would have just stood there, he could have still took it. It just would take a little bit for his healing factor to do its thing. So, they're fighting outside. This is a cool panel right here. And Deadpool gets kicked in the face. He's trying to figure out what he's going to do because he wants that money, you know what I'm saying? Which I don't blame him. And it ends up showing that Wolverine is getting ticked off to where he gets into berserker rage mode. My voice just cracked. But you can see the craziness in his eyes, and Deadpool knows what's up. He's like, oh crap. So he ends up kind of trying to give some defense, but you can see Wolverine just sliced him right here. And then Deadpool looks down, and Wolverine had sliced his fingers off to where he can't even pull the trigger to his gun anymore. I don't know. And the way Wolverine is smiling when he's in berserker rage, he is loving the violence, dude. He's loving bringing the pain. And Deadpool's like, oh crap, I gotta figure something else out. So here's another example of it shows what Deadpool sees. He's looking at Wolverine like he's a raging bull, and he's the guy with the red, and the bull's coming after the red. So Deadpool, he's like, he's thinking, okay, I just gotta dodge him. He jumps over him, kind of retreats up into a building where he ends up finding a rocket launcher. And the way that the rocket launcher is, even though his fingers are gone, he can pull the trigger for this. So that's why he got the rocket launcher. He aims it right at Wolverine. Wolverine dodges it, but kaboom, it hit a nearby car. And when I was reading this, I was like, oh dang, like, Deadpool might have just like killed someone in that car. And Wolverine just keeps saying like, you're crazy. Because Deadpool, he unpredictable. He is kind of crazy. So they get to where they're fighting some more. They're just going at it. Deadpool's looking at how his fingers are gone still. In this panel right here, it's sick, dude. It just shows the smackdown being laid onto Deadpool. I love this art. Like, I gotta keep saying that, sorry. But basically, Wolverine starts hearing someone yelling from the car that got blown up by that rocket launcher that Deadpool shot. Somebody's like, help, my baby's in there, my baby. And you can see Deadpool starts to smile because he knows that Wolverine, the good side, is going to come into him, and he's going to get distracted and go try to help whoever's stuck in that car. So as Wolverine goes over there, he looks in the car, and it's literally a fake baby with a bomb in the fake baby. This is classic Deadpool right here. Just first he's blowing up a bomb that was in Wolverine's turkey. Then he's putting a fake bomb in a baby to lure Wolverine over there, thinking he's rescuing a real baby. Classic Deadpool. So it blows up. Kaboom, kablow, rest in peace to Wolvie. He got hit by a bazooka. No, I'm just playing. He's obviously not dead because his healing factor. So, turns out this lady was a paid actor by Deadpool. And he's like, wow, you did a way better job than I thought you were going to do. He's like, take this extra money. And he's, telling her to take this extra money and just applauding her for her acting skills. He gets so sidetracked, and like some of his rabbit trails that he gets on is funny, like mid-fight. Classic Deadpool though, right here. And so sure enough, that lady runs off. You can see Wolverine already back up, and he's ticked. And you could, like, we've seen, Wolverine diving at Deadpool like this in the Deadpool and Wolverine movie. Like, you can see where they get some inspiration from with that movie is, their epic fights in the comics. So you can kind of see, looks like Deadpool's fingers maybe are starting to grow back a little bit because he has the healing factor as well. But I think Wolverine's been shot a few times. Deadpool's also been sliced up. They both have a healing factor. And it just shows the same thing. Wolverine, Deadpool dodging Wolverine. Wolverine gets shot, but then Deadpool gets stabbed. And they're just kind of at a stalemate from what it seems. Like they are both just messing each other up. And the last panel of the issue that I have showing is they both are just at a standstill. They've both messed each other up so much that they can't do anymore. And it goes on in the next issue. It ends up revealing who put the hit out for Wolverine. And it also reveals that Deadpool actually, his healing factor worked better. He ends up healing up before Wolverine, gets Wolverine captured, and the person who put out the hit for Wolverine shows up. But so in this fight, though, they come to a standstill, and it's a battle of the healing factor after that, which Deadpool ended up winning. So I don't know if that shows that Deadpool's healing factor works better than Wolverine's. I guess it does. But I just thought that was an epic fight. It showed classic Deadpool, and it showed Wolverine and Berserker Rage. And like I said, this was covering Wolverine Origins issues 21 through 23. And I highly recommend just this whole comic book series. If you want to learn Wolverine's character more, figure out more about his rogue gallery of villains. He's got an interesting rogue gallery. There's more there's other heroes who have really good rogue galleries other than Spider-Man, and it's just fun to learn more about Wolverine. See why he's one of the top dogs in Marvel. So I highly recommend this. And yeah, I hope y'all enjoyed that comic book overview today. But yeah, I think that's going to wrap it up for today's episode of the 2020 Visions podcast. Like I said, my name is J. Raj, and I'm just trying to build a community here of people that like WWE, they like video games, movies, Marvel, comics. That's what we're building here. So if this is just something that interests you and you think that you might want to just drop a comment or spark up some more convos that I can maybe discuss in the future, feel free to like, subscribe, comment, all of that, because you're not going to want to miss out what we're building here. And I love Star Wars as well. And I love Transformers. Like, none of that's off the table with me. So if that sounds good to you, then drop a RKO to that subscribe button. And I just appreciate all y'all coming on here to listen. And I hope y'all have a great week. I can't wait until next episode, where one thing we are going to be discussing is Marvel's top rivalries. So that's one thing you can look forward to of many things for the next episode. Tune in, guys. Thanks for listening, and yeah, have a good day. Peace.